Good morning and welcome to In and Around Lake Forest. I'm Steve Smith. Most of you probably know that ice cream is one of the things that most people like to eat as a dessert. In fact, depending on the studies you look at, you'll find that that is the #1 dessert liked by most Americans, with chocolate chip cookies coming in a close second. And depending on where you grew up, depends on what particular ice cream you like to eat. Well, today we're privileged to have a guest on who made a childhood passion of liking a particular ice cream into ownership here in Lake Forest. And I'm talking about none other than John Wolokow, who is the co-owner of Handel's Homemade Ice Cream here in Lake Forest. And so before we bring him on, I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. John is a veteran in the consumer electronics industry and is currently president and CEO of Alluratech, which is based in Irvine, California. He's also the co-owner of Handel's Homemade Ice Cream here in Lake Forest, along with two other partners who are coincidentally also named John. John grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, which is where Handel's originated back in 1945. And through his love of eating that ice cream, that's what propelled him to open up a store here and a second one in Irvine. And I know he's got one planned, I think, for another part of Irvine or Costa Mesa a little later in the year. So John is like fully engaged in his childhood love, and we're going to hear a lot more about him when we bring him on here. John?
Yeah, hi, Steve.
Hey, how are you? Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Thanks for being on with us today. We're really happy to have you with us.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you about Handles.
Good. Well, I just teed up a little bit of you as I open the show. But what I'd like to just start with is, I'm really interested how you were able to take a kind of a love of ice cream and Handel's in particular back in Youngstown, Ohio, and managed to keep that passion going all the way to having ownership in our store here in Lake Forest. How did that happen?
Well, it's a kind of a funny story. I always loved ice cream. I mean, who doesn't, right? I grew up as a kid in Youngstown, Ohio. We'd go to church after church. It was just stop at Handel's. That was just kind of our way of life. And I can remember hot summer months, waiting outside and long lines, and just couldn't wait to get the ice cream. And even in the cold winter months, you'd be surprised, but people line up in Youngstown, Ohio when
In the
it's
winter.
20 below zero, and there's
Wow.
people out there just trying to get their fix. So it's just something that, I've always been familiar with as a kid. And then when I moved out to California, I just really kind of missed it. And every time I'd fly back home to Youngstown, I'd always have to stop and get my Handles. So
Right.
I got my Handles fixed. And then when I moved out here, they started opening up. They opened some franchise in California. And so I didn't have to go quite as far traveling to get it.
Right.
But I just really thought, you know what? I think I want to open a Handles out here. And so I have two business partners, and we discussed it. And that was back October 2020 when we first opened the Lake Forest store.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, how long had you, because I did mention to everybody that you're a veteran of the consumer electronics industry. How long were you in that industry and owning the other company that you have?
Sure. Yeah. So I co-founded Alluratech, which is my electronics company, in 2006. And that's really my full-time job. This is where I spend most of my time. That's where I'm actually here at right now. But I would say more of my baby or my passions, the Handles. And that's where, it's just something near and dear to me. Again, just I guess as a kid growing up and just really loving the ice cream. And it's just a big part of me right now. So.
Well, I know you have two locations and I think a third one on the drawing board. How far do you plan to go with franchising and owning these locations? I mean, is there more to come, or is there a limit for you three Johns?
So one more, and that's it. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of rewards and benefits with owning a handles, but there's certainly a lot of work that goes into it. And I think 3 is about our limit. So we're going to cap it at that.
Well, we go to the one here in Lake Forest, and as we've gone to a number of different, I don't know what you call them, confectionery shops, cotton candy and all
Hmm.
these different things that these stores have gotten. And I've just always found Handel's ice cream to have a very unique taste to it. I mean, my personal go-to is mint chocolate chips. So that's my standard bearer, when I go to these different
Sure.
places. But what you guys make just has so much of a different taste to it. And I'm wondering, is it in the ingredients? Is it in the process? What is your secret sauce that allows your product to taste like that?
Yeah. Well, it really is. It's a secret sauce, and it's a proprietary mix.
Hmm.
So I kind of need to give you a little bit of a history on handles and how it started, and that'll help a bit. But so back in 1945, a little old lady named Alice Handel, again in Youngstown, Ohio, her husband owned a gas station, and he was serving customers, and she was into baking. She saw it as a business opportunity. Customers were coming in and buying gas, so she really enjoyed baking, and she started experimenting and making ice creams. So it's a proprietary formula that dates all the way back to 1945. That's evolved into 120 plus different flavors now.
Hmm.
I don't know the actual ingredients. Certainly that's confidential, but it's good stuff, and it's just good old fashioned ice cream. We try to keep it simple, and we keep trying to improve it, but over the years, Handles has done quite well in terms of like rewards and accolades. We were voted best ice cream in the world by National Geographic's 10 Best of Everything. I think we
Wow.
beat out a little gelato shop over in Italy. That was big for us, and we were recently just named best ice cream in Orange County, 2022. So I feel really good about the product, and I feel
Right.
like the customer. And I spend a lot of time looking at customer reviews, and just hearing right from the mouth of the consumer, and making sure that they're enjoying and loving the ice cream as much as I do, and it seems like everybody's pretty happy with it. So we're gonna.
All right. So I know from a franchising standpoint, when you're doing a retail operation, depending on the franchise you're with, sometimes they can be very involved in helping choose the location. Other times they kind of leave it up to the franchisee. What what was the impetus for you guys selecting Lake Forest?
Well, Lake Forest is not too far from my home. It's actually a really special community. One of my really good friends lives in Lake Forest, and I'd go over his house, and there's just a tremendous amount of eateries, and the demographic there fits really well. The schooling, there's a few things that we look for when we're trying to decide where we should put a location.
Hmm.
One of the important ones is schools, and if there's a lot of sports parks in the areas. So you have Lake Forest Sports Park, which is huge. A lot of great schools in the Lake Forest community, and there's a lot of eateries. So we're an after dinner destination dessert place. So
Right.
that's when we're usually most busy, between like 7 and 10 at night, right after dinner, and having just a tremendous amount of great eateries in the Lake Forest area is very appealing for us as a dessert offering.
Well, you have that whole building that used to be a Fuddruckers,
Mhm.
a few years ago, that's now being kind of refurbed for a variety of different restaurants. So that's in rock throwing distance from your store. So that should help quite a bit as well.
Yeah, they just opened the Board and Brew there, and the great owners there, and my business partner John Henderson is he's becoming friends with the owner of the Board and Brew, and we're going to do some cross pollination there. But yeah,
Nice.
no, there it's a very vibrant plaza where we're at. It was a bit slower when COVID hit. That was challenging for everybody, but it's really coming to life now, and there's a couple other eateries opening up in that same plaza too. There's like a world market with a lot of different foods from around different geographical regions opening up soon. And then right next to us, the building was vacant. It's a one of the dollar stores.
Oh yeah, I think it's a Dollar Tree. Is it
Thank
Dollar?
you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a Dollar Tree,
right.
but so yeah, so just the more visibility, the more eyeballs, the more people that know that Handles is there. Of course, we want them to come in and try it. A lot of people still haven't tried Handles ice cream, and I want them to just come in and see why we were voted best ice cream in the world. I think that if we can get, customer awareness out there, let them know where we are, and they come in and they try it, I think they're gonna really enjoy the product we offer.
Well, what have you found so far? Because I know the store's been there for a number of years. What have you found so far to be your best marketing tool?
The best marketing tool really is word of mouth. That's what spreads, when people come in and try it and they tell their friends and family, then they come in and try it, and then it just snowballs. It's really the most effective way to market. We do a lot with social media, just being members of the chamber is nice, and just letting your audience know about us. But really, you've got to try the product, and that's when people start talking about it. We're pretty active with a lot of the schools, and we do what's called Spirit Night fundraisers.
Hmm.
So that's been very effective for us as well. And kind of how that works is if there's an organization that's looking to raise funds, like schools or nonprofits, we'll set up what's called a Spirit Night, where they'll come in and identify themselves with that organization, and anything that's purchased on that day, we donate 20% of the proceeds right back to that organization.
Okay,
So it's a win-win. The organization's getting some funds, and we're
right.
getting new customers to come in and try the product. So it's worked out really well for us.
That's great. That's great. Um, One of the things that I was kind of curious about was the people that work in the store. All right. They always seem to be very attentive. I mean, you're not standing at that counter looking at that giant board of all those flavors more than 5-10 seconds, and somebody's there to help you. And I find that so refreshing, given that a lot of retail experiences today are less than that. And it's mostly because the customer service just, they're there, but they're waiting for you to tell them what to do. They're not kind of approaching you and guiding you through the experience of being in that store. Is that
Sure.
something that you guys train your employees and instill in them? Is that part of the franchise package? How do you get your employees to be that good at waiting on customers?
I'm glad you asked that. Actually, that's something that's very important to us. And we're kind of known as the three Johns. So we have John Henderson, John Messenger, who's actually back in Youngstown, Ohio,
Okay.
and then myself. It's something that we talk about as the owners, and what's really important to us. So we know we have a really good product. So what makes a good product even better? Great customer service. And it is really a matter of fact of just really training the staff and telling them how important the customers are. Because the truth is, if we don't have customers, we don't have jobs. And we want the customer to feel special, like it's an extraordinary experience. So most places you go into, you place your order, you check out, and you're done with it. I kind of, when I'm talking to the staff, I almost consider it like speed dating. It's like
That's a good way to put it.
you've got 5 minutes to win this customer over, and hopefully they want to come back, and not only for the product, but because they feel like, you know what, this is a really great place, and I really enjoyed the service here, and they took care of me. And so that's yeah, it just comes from the top down, and we really focus on providing that good quality customer service that the customers deserve.
Well, I found in the times that my wife and I have been in there, I found this kind of ancillary thing kind of takes place, and it's customers talking to each other while they're making a decision on what flavor of ice cream they're going to get. You don't find that in a lot of other food places, where
Mhm.
you go in and you're at a counter and you buy something, and then you take it out with you. So it's very novel to see people suggesting flavors to folks that are maybe taking a little too long to figure out what they want. And just the fact that they feel comfortable approaching people and talking about that while they're in the store, I think that's a great experience.
Well, ice cream's fun, and when you're in there and even people you don't know, it's like, so I think I mentioned we have 120, 130 different flavors. So that's in our recipe book. We'll keep 50 flavors on tap throughout the day, and then we'll rotate them out, sometimes daily, sometimes every few weeks. Just, we have our seasonals coming in. And so there's a lot to talk about. It's like, okay, which flavor is next? And we do have a little app that you could scan your QR code, and it kind of gives you like the top recommended, like top 5 picks, things like
Okay.
that. So that helps a bit. But really, you know what? Talk to your fellow customer, and engage in conversation. And I love that, And then when I'm there at the store, and I'll come over and I'll talk with the customers as well, and say, well, are you more of like a chocolate or a vanilla person? And do you like it really sweet? And just try to find out what kind of, I guess, is most appealing to them, and then make those suggestions. So yeah, it's part of the whole process.
Well, one of the things I've noticed in other businesses that offer up traditionally sweet type of dessert items, there's this whole flavor profile that's emerged called savory, and it could be very tasty, but it's not sweet.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything that falls in that category as an ice cream flavor?
I'd say that some of our seasonal, more fruity flavors, like we like to focus, like in the hotter summer months, on more of like the strawberry sorbets and the mango sorbets. They're a lot more refreshing.
Hmm.
But the truth is, we are really known for just that good old fashioned sweet ice cream. So
Mm.
there are some one-offs to that, but people are usually coming in because they just want that good old fashioned taste. And it's hard to bottle and tell exactly what that is, but yeah, it's just kind of part of our secret sauce.
Interesting. Let me change over a little bit and ask you about the experience of dealing with Handles as a franchisee,
Mhm.
because there's franchises are, in fact, that's probably one of the most successful business models around the world. It's not perfect, but it does far better than most people trying to grow something from scratch.
Mhm.
But different companies treat their franchisees different ways in terms of startup and onboarding and ongoing support. How have you found working with Handles as a franchisee?
So when we first started Lake Forest, they were kind of in this growth mode, and there was a bit of growing pains there. And they they added tremendous amount of resources to kind of help us. So it's night and day from when we first started and to where when I was opening up my Irvine store and working on this third store. So I'd say that, because Handles grew so quickly, that there was, um, I don't think a better term for it than just growing pains. And it
Mm.
was just more a matter of bandwidth and kind of getting what you needed. But now everything's running smooth, and we've got plenty of resources at the corporate level, and the support is there, marketing support. There's a tremendous amount of people in place to kind of help you out. We have like basically our franchise kind of coordinators that we work with, and if there are any issues or questions or problems, like they're there to support us. So it's actually great now.
Cool.
Yeah,
And I believe your son Jonathan works in the Lake Forest store, right?
that's right.
How's he liking that gig?
Uh, you know, um, I have to say I'm really proud of him. He works his butt off. He doesn't play the "hey, my dad's the owner" card. He leads by example, and he actually really enjoys it. So it's something that him and a few of his friends, they work together. And um, I think that for me as a dad, like, it's been a great experience for him. And not just my son, but the staff there in general. Like, and that's one of the big intangibles about being an owner of Handles, it's the fact that you can mentor the staff and try to help add value. Some of the conversations, Steve,
I can only imagine.
some of the stuff that goes on there. But just even like little things, and I'll give you a silly example. I was there one night and we were closing up, and one of my son Jonathan's friends grabs the mop and starts mopping the floor. And I say to him, I'm like, "Did you sweep the floor first?" And he's like, "No." I'm like, "Well, what do you think's happening to all the dirt?" I'm like, "You sweep the floor, then you mop it." So just little things that, as trivial as that is, really just kind of helps. And, I guess you get that sense of, it's a good feeling knowing that you're mentoring and help making a positive change in the kids' lives. So, but yeah, it's been great.
You know what? Look, I think it's great that you offer that level of development to kids that are at the stage where maybe that kind of work is what they're capable of, because it's not highly skilled work, it requires effort. But where else do you learn those basic understandings of how to work in a business unless you start off at a place like this and have someone like yourself that's willing to point out the fact that you need to sweep the floor before you mop it?
Yeah, yeah, and it is rewarding in that regard, and not just with the staff, but you know, I really enjoy engaging with the community. So a lot of people come in, and you get to know them. A lot of the customers are regulars there, and you get to know them by first name, and talking with them, and then you start talking about other things. It's usually just ice cream, then it evolves into, so you got a golf hat on, you look like a golfer, which is also one of my passions.
Okay.
Yeah, so just the whole experience, mentoring the staff, engaging with the community, talking with the customers, it's been a true blessing, I'd have to say.
Well, I know my wife would probably like it if you guys could come up with an ice cream that worked with the guidelines of Weight Watchers next door. Because every time we go over there, she's like, "Okay, I have to weigh in tomorrow, so I can't. I have to get a little kitty cone."
You know, there's a yin and a yang to everything, Steve. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, you've not only got your oldest son Jonathan, but you've got two daughters that are kind of getting close to being able to work in stores. Is that something they're saying, "Dad, open another store so I can work in it," or are you kind of looking at this as a development phase that you need to do because it's going to be good for you?
Well, for me, again, as a parent, I want to, in a sense, teach and mentor, and let it be a positive learning experience for them. Because to your earlier point, like, you don't know what you don't know, and
Right.
it's just a great opportunity for them to come in. But yeah, my 15-year-old, her name's Madison. We call her Maddie. She texts me. She's like, "Can I work at Handles this summer?" She'll be turning 16 this summer, and I'm like, "Sure." And then a follow-up text, "Can my one friend," and then her other friend, all these different names. I'm like, "Okay, okay, okay." So just, I want to support that, but at the same time, like, it does get busy, and we get long lines, and we try to move through the lines as quickly as we can and serve the customers the best we can. And so it's a little bit of a fine line you're walking there with having your daughter and a bunch of her friends, not over in the corner giggling and making sure that we're providing,
Right.
the good quality service that the customers deserve. So,
Well, you're fortunate being out here in Southern California that Disney has trained everybody on the value of waiting in long lines. So as long as your people aren't standing out there for 45 minutes, you're ahead of the game.
well, there you go. That's a good point.
So tell us just a little bit about your other main business, Allura Tech. What do you guys do?
Yeah. So Laura Tech, we have actually about 4 or 5 different product categories, but our main product category is digital picture frames.
Hmm.
So yeah, so basically the idea of you taking the pictures from your camera or from your computer and putting them on an actual photo frame, and just having them go through a sequence of slideshows and videos. And the digital photo frames have been out for quite some time now, but the new technology has really evolved where it's kind of fun. So again, my parents, coming from Ohio, are back in Ohio in the Youngstown area. So I'll have a frame over at my mom's house. I can take a picture right on my camera or on my
Right.
phone and send it directly to my mom's photo frame of the kids instantly. So these new frames are Wi-Fi, touchscreen, smartphone app based, and yeah, it's been a really a strong business for us since 2006. And we have a lot of other different product categories like Bluetooth and mobile accessories. Most of our products are sold through like Best Buy and Walmart, like the major
Okay.
retailers. But yeah, we're here in Irvine, California, and it's yeah, it's been quite an experience with starting Aloratech as well.
So, so you're telling me with these photo frames
Mhm.
that on a remote basis, you can populate somebody else's frame with new pictures and just kind of keep adding to it, and then they just get the benefit of seeing what's new that pops up.
That's exactly right. So they'll have the frame at home on their shelf or kitchen or countertop, wherever. And once your friends or loved ones send you that picture, you'll get a notification that says, hey, you have a new photo. And you'll just go in and click it, and then that photo will be there. So it's
Wow,
instant. Everything happens within like 30 seconds.
nice.
Yeah.
Now you guys have been around for how long now?
2006.
So is there any new type of technology that you're looking at going forward that you think would be a good complement to the group that you have now?
Well, VR is growing, so we're looking at launching a whole line of virtual reality accessories. So that's in the works, but we're constantly coming out with new products, new product development. We're just launching these new track tags. You know, so many people lose their luggages while traveling and
Oh,
whatnot. So
yeah.
throw one in your luggage, and you can use your smartphone and find out where it is anywhere in the world. So,
Wow, that would be
yep,
incredible.
yeah. So
That
there's
would be
there's
incredible.
a lot of
If
stuff
you're
that's in
into
the works.
the virtual reality, just for me, come up with some kind of software that doesn't make you motion sick. Because I've
Yeah.
never been able to make any of that work, because 5 seconds into it, I'm ready to fall over.
Yeah, no, I think you and I are aligned on that. Not that good at the whole VR stuff. I guess you get used to it, but I'm not there yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So final question. I should have asked you this up front. What is your favorite ice cream flavor?
Oh, that's a tough one. So I guess, single best answer to that would be, and this is actually from one of my franchise buddies. His line is, "My favorite flavor is whatever I try next," because the truth is that like I'll get hooked on a flavor, and then I'll go over to another flavor and be like, okay, now I want this one. And then like I want to try something different. I'm like, oh God, I got to get that one. So it's tough. I honestly don't have a favorite flavor. It just yeah. I mean, I could probably narrow it down to like maybe a top five, but
Well,
I
with 100, what did you say? 103, 130? How many?
yeah,
Yeah,
100, about 130 total flavors in a recipe book. Yeah.
wow. So with that
Yeah.
many, I don't know that I'd want to lock myself into one either.
Yeah, we do have one flavor that stands out across. So there's 90, I think 92 handles across the US now. So there's one flavor that is by far the most popular amongst all the franchisees, and that's called Graham Central Station. So if you haven't tried that one, I guess strength in numbers, give that one a try. But
Okay.
man, there's so many delicious flavors,
I know.
and you're welcome to sample at Lake Forest and Irvine. If you come in, you can sample. We also offer what's called a 4-scoop sampler. So if you're kind of indecisive on what's the best option for you, you'll get a nice heaping scoop of up to 4 different flavors in a single dish. And that's a good way to go. And it's a really good value for the money.
It's kind of like a wine flight, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's cool. Yeah, I'll have to
Yeah.
try that out. That would be good. Little smaller amounts of multiple flavors would suit me well, I think.
There you go.
John, listen, it's been wonderful having you on today. Like I said, I personally love your product, so I thought, what better way to fill up one of these episodes than get the guy that runs the store on here. So thank you for being with us today.
Well, I appreciate it, Steve. It was great talking with you, and hopefully we'll see you at Handles.
Oh, absolutely. You can guarantee I'll be there. All right, folks, listen, thanks for being with us today. We've been interviewing John Wallikow, who is a co-owner of the Handles Homemade Ice Cream Store here in Lake Forest. So if what he's been talking about has not been enough to get you going there, I'm telling you, you need to go there. Because once you start eating that ice cream, you will not eat any of the other stuff that you've been consuming up to this point. So John, thanks for being with us. Everybody, we will be back in 2 weeks with another guest, and we hope you'll stick with us. Just check the Lake Forest Chamber page for details on that, and we'll see you in a few. Take care, John. Have a great one.